On to Coach Foley and Coach, the floor is yours.
I'm supposed to start with a statement, from what I've heard.
Question?
No, I'll start with a statement. I'm Ed Foley. How you guys doing? Ed Foley, Special Teams. You normally after the game, obviously, I would have some comments about what we did. So this one's a little new for me. So I'll just go ahead and open it up to questions. Whatever you guys want to talk about.
Tom Chattel, the Oklahoma Herald.
Hi, Tom.
Where'd you have lunch?
Yes, lunch today. I'm still working on lunch. We got a couple leftover Chick-fil-A sandwiches in the fridge, though. I might have one of those.
Could you expound maybe on your travels around Nebraska and the people you met, why you love doing that? Apparently you do.
I just, it's my job. Honestly, like that's the way we've recruited. Coach Rule, and I have recruited, and all the staff has recruited, which is, here's 4 identified players, okay, and you go see those 4 players, and then what do you do the rest of the day? So my day starts at a certain time and ends at a certain time, and I'd like to fill in that whole day with seeing and meeting as many people within that time frame as we can, and I don't miss many meals, so we try to get a little local lunch, and then, but I like to get a local flavor because I think the local flavor for the food gives you some talking points with some of the coaches and something you can talk about beyond just like, hey, how's this guy and how tall is he and how fast is he? You say, hey, where can I get lunch today? So, we're working that into the day, making a day out of that area to me is, what we do, and it makes it more fun, but I think it's part of the whole process of figuring out the area, the coaches, the players, and all that.
Sean Callahan with Husker Online. What did you just learn about the state of Nebraska, the way football's played here, just like the different cultures? You kind of go into every different community you've been into in the last month. This
state has an amazing passion, and you guys understand my background. I'm from New Jersey, right? So I've recruited for Temple, and just in recruiting New Jersey, now I've recruited New Jersey, and I recruited Europe and New York City and Philadelphia, so that kind of northeast area. So I'm recruiting New Jersey for Temple. It's a pro town, so there's not a true identity for football there. And really in the Northeast, it's kind of a dynamic. But here, every town is Nebraska football. Every person's. I didn't run into anybody that wasn't Nebraska football. Like, it's just driven for Nebraska football. So that part of it was a little eye-opening to me. And my family went to Boston College. I had my father played quarterback at Boston College. My little brother played quarterback at Boston College. So I have a little bit of a familiarity with what they do, but it's nothing like this. So the reception has been amazing. Just going town to town, whether it's where you eat or who you talk to, or when you wear the N around town or into the schools. People know you're there. I'm not really used to having that happen. Again, I've been a little bit limited in terms of where I've recruited and who I've recruited for, but that's been fantastic. It really says a lot about what's going on here.
Amy Just, Lincoln Journal Star. Is it your eventual goal, however long it takes, to get to every high school, or you're already at over 75?
Yeah. I would like to get to every school. I don't know enough about the area to know if that's a possibility or a reality. That's not going to happen in 1 year based on what I've seen. But my goal, and again, this was just one little piece of. If you see the dynamic, and coaches got an unbelievable vision and plan. In case you haven't noticed that already. But so it's like, okay, how can we cover ground? What can we do here? Well, I'm the special teams coordinator, obviously. My work was done, very fortunately my work was done in December in terms of scholarship players for this class. So got an unbelievable kicker, got a long snapper to add to the mix of what we have here already. So I'm not going out and specifically targeting 2023 players like the other positions. So I'm the natural guy of okay, Foles, what can you do? And I'm saying, let me get in the car and figure out what's around here. Hit the local kids, maybe get some background on some of the kids that are coming in 2024 and 25. So it really didn't come out to be this plan of hey, we're going to get to every school in the state. It just came out and said, let's go do what we do, which is, you be the local guy for now. But I think between the whole staff going out, we need to get to every school or just about every school in the state, but it might not be all me. It could be a bunch of us doing that. And I certainly see, like when we go out again in the spring, more positionally targeted recruiting in the state of Nebraska. And I got into Iowa and South Dakota and Kansas City and Denver a little bit too. So like, but I see a little bit more of the staff coming back and doing that, but it's not, I mean, Coop and Coach kind of handle that. They kind of directed me to go, said, Foles, go do what we do. And that's what I did locally. And I think it just garnered a little bit more attention because of, I tweet. I'm not a big Twitter guy. You're not going to believe this, but it's not really something that I do a lot of. But I hit it. Obviously, I hit a chord with some of the local people, and it was what it was. But it was and it was fun to do that, and it was fun to get the reception and all that stuff. But I think the plan going forward is to get to as many as I can, but also understand too, like, there's certain schools that have really good football players, and those schools may need a little bit more attention or a little bit more traffic from us based on the rules than some of the other ones. So I think it's a combination of seeing as many schools as we can, but also giving the direction to where the players are that are going to fit us for the short term.
Matt Rule, Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Good to meet you. You've known Coach Rule for a while, a long time.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with him evolved and changed from maybe the first time you kind of saw him as an assistant to now?
Well, it's really taken on two different lives because we were assistant coaches together. You guys know the history, I'm sure, but so we were assistant coaches together. He was the offensive coordinator, and I was the tight end coach under Al Golden for 3 years in 2008, 9, and 10. And then we worked together. I was a director of football operations in 11, and he was the tight end coach. Then he left to go to the Giants, and then he came back as the head coach. So that kind of changed the dynamic of our relationship. So it's really kind of, there's some bumps where when you go from like a peer, like somebody, and because we hit it off pretty good. Our wives get along, and we're like pretty decent friends. We do some things socially off the field together. So we had that going, but then you have this kind of friendship going, and then he becomes your boss. That changes the dynamic a little bit. So we had some conversations and some adjustments to our relationship there for that early part of the time. But it's the one great thing, which I think you've probably seen and gathered from some of the other people that have been up here, is you have a trust with players that you coach, people that you've been around with for a long time, and the trust over time gets stronger. Now, the trust is a two-way street, but like, he trusts me to be here because he asked me to come, and I was beyond fired up to say yes to that. But it's so that's developed over the years to the point where now there's not any real when we just we're looking at recruits this morning. It's like there's no grace period. You guys have had this before your work where you're like, what's his agenda? What's her agenda? Like, where are we trying to go with this? What are you trying to? We're beyond all that. So we're just about like, what is the task at hand? How can we do the best possible job at that, and then go to the next job? So it's evolved, to say the least.
Steve Sipple from Husker on 3. When people ask you what it's like to work for, what immediately comes to mind?
A family. It's like working with family. It's like working with your brother. It's like working with, now it's your brother that, he runs the show now. It's not my brother, it's not the brother that I'm gonna, take out in the backyard or whatever, but like, this is a family for us. That's not a cliche. It's not like, fake or whatever. It's not some rah-rah statement. We're really family. Like, I mean, I was in Adam and Michael's wedding. Like, we've been to each other's weddings. We've been to, we've hung out with each other socially. We've been to each other's relatives' funerals. When you've been to somebody's funeral, or you've been to funerals together. We just lost a former player this past week, and a bunch of guys from here went, and like, but there's a camaraderie there. So it really honestly is like family.
Omaha World Herald. When you have that family dynamic and you're in a staff with a bunch of 20-somethings and 30-somethings, is there a conscious effort on your part to kind of do some mentoring as well with some younger coaches?
Yes. I mean, I think there's a responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility, as we go up the ladder. I mean, I'm a little further up the ladder than a lot of these guys, obviously, because I've just been doing it longer. But for all you guys, for wherever we work, I think that there's I think we have a responsibility to bring the younger generation of coaches to a standard with football. I think there's a responsibility to bring Nebraska football to a certain place, to have a certain code and a certain way that we do things here, to bring along and make them better than they were when they got here. I'm learning from them as well. So it's not just me in a mentoring role, because I'm learning a ton of things. I've learned a lot of evaluation points from Evan Cooper. I mean, Evan Cooper, if you haven't talked to him or you don't know him, is like one of the best evaluators of talent I've ever seen, and just breaking down and listening to him talk about it. So it's not just me mentoring them, but I think we all have a responsibility to leave a place better than we found it and to bring the younger generation along.
Hey, Coach Steve Mark with Inside Nebraska. The return game, punt return, kickoff return. When good teams are good at that, like where do they do really well?
Here's the kickoff. The kickoff return and the punt return are different animals to me, even though they are both returns. The responsibility of the kickoff return is to put the offense in a position where it can have more success. So as you guys know, like the further we can get the ball out of the end zone towards the middle of the field, maybe every once in a while we can get one to go all the way. But our responsibility is to leave the offense in a position where they have a better chance to score. So obviously, the further we bring the ball out, the better that is. It's really hard to return kickoffs for a lot of big yards, because the kickers are really good, and the kickoff return team. I don't know if you've never been on the kickoff return team. It's one of the hardest things to do. If you can just picture just guys running down at you full speed. And the college game is harder than the pro game, because in the pro game it's 5-5 and guys run down the field. In the college game, man, there's twists and all kinds of bunches, and guys can go. The rules are different, so it's even harder in college. But I want to take the ball and bring it out as far as we can, as often as we can. And the two things for me, and Coach Rule and I talk about this, we're going to get a bunch of them to the 20 or the 25, and then hopefully we're going to change the game once, twice, 3 times throughout the course of the year. Maybe it's a touchdown. Maybe if you get one to the 50, you've just taken the offense and put them from a percentage of scoring from like 20 to 50. And we got good kickers here too, so maybe even higher in terms of scoring points. So we want to do that. But what we can't do is we can't get tackled on the 8 or the 6 or have penalties. So I'm going to put it directly on the players and be like, listen, guys, I'm here to return kicks. Me, that's Ed Foley's agenda. But I got a boss. So if we want to do this together, we have to catch the ball and get it north and south, and we can't have penalties. So we have to do, and now when I say catch it and get it north-south, that sounds simple. The ball's going to be kicked, squibbed, blooped, skied. You got to defend the field, defend the onside kick, defend the ball across the field. So like there's a little bit to that, but we're going to take a lot of time in getting that ball out to the 20 and then leave it up to the talents of the returner. So we're going to say to the returner, look, dude, we're going to get you to the 20. You're going to have to break a tackle, or you're going to have to do something special to get it to go the whole way. But we're going to return kicks. Like, Coach Rule has designated me to be the special teams guy. Like that's for, you guys can see between the lines, right? Like I coached the tight ends and did this when I was at Temple, but he thinks it's important enough that he said, Foles, I want you to just focus on the special teams. So we got to return kicks. The punts, to me, the punt return game is a puzzle of trying to block kicks and trying to return kicks. And the philosophy is kind of similar, but like it's not just catch the ball and return it, because I want to block some kicks. Coach Rule wants to block some kicks. So when you're going to try to block kicks, that return probably you're not blocking for that returner, so you're giving that up on that particular play. The net of that is, if you block a couple of kicks, particularly if you get 1 or 2 early in the season, then you get the protection packed in, and now you can block them, and now you can return it. So the whole thing to me on punt return is really fascinating in terms of being a game of blocking, putting them on their heels a little bit, and then hitting the return. So we've had some success with both of those things at Temple and Baylor. So hopefully, we can continue to do that. But again, the philosophy is the same. We're going to have a bunch of catch it and go, 8, 10 yards. Hopefully we can change the game, but we can also change the game, by blocking one. And understand this, guys, like in football, statistically, if we catch the punt and we return it 10 yards, we just got a first down. We just got the first down for the offense. So if we can get 130, you guys saw it last night with that, that punt return last night, like you can change field position and really give the offense a chance to score. But our goal from play to play when we return it is get a first down, get the first down for the offense. Again, we can change a game with 1 or 2 blocks and 1 or 2 big returns throughout the year. And I think we're going to be we should be, that should put us in the league leaders, but that's not, our goal is not going to be to go into it and say, we want to lead the league in this. We want to be super aggressive, put pressure on the punter by trying to block one and then return it when we're not blocking it. That's a long answer, but that was the return game to me is something where we can, really do some damage here.
Have you got a chance to watch any of last year's Husker returns, and what were your initial reactions to that?
I'm not really in a position. Yes, I watched them. I saw a bunch of guys playing hard, so I think there's some things there that we can work with. The particulars of how we're going to do that and who that's going to be, I couldn't. I'll be able to. We can talk about that after the spring ball.
And Ken, JTV in Omaha. Do you what's your philosophy about playing starters, key guys, and special teams? Do you like that, or do you like?
I like to be employed. So my philosophy is to listen to the head coach. But again, because I've been working with Matt, I kind of can answer that. I'm really answering this question for Coach Rule. Coach Rule's good with playing some starters. So I don't know if you remember the guys back from Temple, but there was a guy that was playing last night, had a pretty good game. Hassan Reddick, he was a starter for us as a senior on the punt team. Him and Tyler Matakevich, who's playing for the Buffalo Bills now. He's really a special teams player. He's not a household name in the NFL, but he's been in the NFL for like 5 years. Those guys were great, like all-American type players as seniors that played one team for us. They played on the punt team, and the punt team and the kickoff team are the two that coach will be like, if we need to use a starter for one team or so, we can do that. But if there's a guy that's playing will linebacker and he's the starting will, but he's out in nickel and he's playing 25, 30 plays a game, we'll be able to use that guy on multiple teams. But coach will let us use guys, use players. And he wants to get the best teams out there. So I've got to do a good job of utilizing, skill sets. Like at Baylor, our starting left tackle on our kickoff return team was the other side of the coin. He had a really good skill set for that job. He didn't do anything else. He didn't play on offense. They used to be like, "You really going to use this guy?" I'm like, "He's playing every kickoff return. He's the best I got." And he was really good at that particular skill. And really, with that particular skill was, and that left tackle now, we're returning the ball to the right. He's dropping, and he's got to find his guy. And the guy's running over here, he's running over there, and he just had a great knack for how to block the guy. So we're going to try to play the best players at every position. But if there's a starter, if there's a guy that's playing defense and he's playing, 50 to 55 plays a game, I probably am not going to have him for more than one team.
Hi, Coach. Adam Kruger with CBS in Omaha.
Hi, Adam.
Your kicker you just signed, Tristan Alvano. What stands out about him, and could he possibly contend for a starting role in the fall?
Let me go to the second part of that, then the first part. The kicking, evaluating the kickers and determining who's going to be the starting kicker or the starting punter for that matter is a little bit, I would say, easier. It's a little cleaner than evaluating linebackers and DBs because it's quantifiable. So we can quantify, how good is he? How many kicks is he making? And then there's pressure kicks, and then there's teaching kicks. So I've got to do a good job of defining for those guys. Hey guys, we're working on our craft here, so it's not always a competition because they'll get worn out. But like, okay, hey guys, we're going to compete on these kicks. No, we're always going to compete when the defense and the offense. When we have the field goal team out there against the field goal block, and coach will let us bang a little bit on those, which is great because a lot of coaches won't. So we'll bang on that. Those will all be competitive kicks. So that'll be quantifiable. So that part of it is, I've had conversations with, all the guys that are in the room right now, and the best guys are going to play, and the guys that do the best. Now, the thing I like about Tristan is more than anything in terms of his leg talent, because he's extremely talented. It was the kicks that he made and the style of kicks that he made. So, one of the things that you get concerned about as a special teams coach evaluating kickers is you see a guy that's got a huge leg, but he's not great under pressure because he hadn't faced that much pressure. Well, heck, that guy's faced a ton of pressure and come through and did it on this field. So that's really important for me, like in terms of seeing him make the big kicks. And it wasn't just the ones that he made out here in the final, which were huge, but he had done that throughout his career where he's had some real pressure kicks that he's made. So that was the difference to me in terms of what separated. Now, know this too, like I've been doing this for 20 years, so I'm connected to some guys that have seen him kick and that have worked with him, so I made those calls to check on him beyond just his high school coach. So, he checked out every single marker. Everybody I talked to about him was like, this guy can handle the pressure. So I'm fired up about him.
A couple more, Coach.
Brian Christopherson with Husker 24/7. Could you speak to Brian Buschini and what your early impression of him as a punter?
Yeah. I've spoken to Brian. Brian's a real professional approach to his game, and I've watched him. I think he's really good. So we've talked about, and again, I'm not promising anybody any jobs. We've got some other punters in the program, so we're gonna make it a competition. But he's good, and he's good beyond just leg strength, because he's got a good leg. I like the fact that he fought through some injury last year. I talked to him about that, on what his mindset was getting through that, because I thought that was really unselfish of him. But if you watch him on film, he really tries to challenge himself with regards to direction. So one of the things that we can do to use his talents not just is, to smash him down the field, or he's also really good in dropping him in the 10-yard line. He's a different ball that way. So he's got the big leg. He can drop him inside the 10, but he's good directionally too. That can really help us in terms of he can get that placement the way I think he can. It'll prepare him for the NFL, but it'll also allow our coverage teams to really focus on certain spots on the field, which can really help us.
What was yesterday like for you as a Philadelphia sports fan?
It's huge. I don't know if you, if anybody's ever been released midseason. So I had the, fortunate or unfortunate ability to get released this year by the Carolina Panthers after 4 games. I think it was God's will that I got released during a Phillies playoff run. So I was able to go to the 5th game of the national championship. I was 8 rows behind the dugout when Bryce Harper hit that home run. And then I was on the flip side, I took my son out of school, which my wife and I had some words about it, but took him out of school, went to the World Series game, and the Phillies got no hit the first time in a long time. So seen both sides of that. But he called me, my son, my one son. I'm beyond blessed to have one of my sons working here with us in operations as a young entry-level guy. And my other son called, I think, 4 times during the game just to check in and make sure I was okay and, talk. Big Hassan Reddick. Hassan's been great to us and the family, and Sean Bradley's on the team. So there's, some guys that we had coached over the years that were playing in that game. I don't know. On the other side was Clay Johnston was covering kickoffs on the other side, who played for us at Baylor. So my son called me to tell me about how Clay was doing as well. So it wasn't just like the Eagles are good, but so my family's like tuned into the Eagles, and then all of our former players that are in the NFL. So he was fired up on both ends on that. We had a couple conversations during the game, but thank you for bringing that up. I've been there. I went to the. I took my 2 sons. I had not taken. I'm sorry. Can I go or not? You guys got somewhere to be? So I took my kids. The first time I took my son. My son's a sophomore in high school now, and everything that you hear about the Philadelphia in terms of the fans, if you've never been there, it's probably actually worse than they're saying. So I wouldn't take, as a father, I wouldn't take my son to an Eagles game when he was growing up. I wouldn't. My dad took me, so I knew what it was like. So I was like, I'm not doing that to my kids. But I took him to the championship game when they beat the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl, and so we were at that game when they won. And we had a recruiting function the night before. We're in the hotel with a bunch of Vikings fans. And my son I don't know, at that time was like maybe 11 years old. And he's listening to the fans talk about, we're coming in, and Vikings fans coming in, we're coming in to take this over. And he's like, Dad, what are they saying? Like, why are they saying that? Why are they acting like that? They know they're going to get killed, right? I'm like, I don't think they really know how it's going to be, but maybe we should share that with them. But that was the next day we went to the game. That was the first time I had taken him as a parent to an Eagle game. So he was, he remembers that. So this was the first one that I hadn't been to when the Philadelphia team made it. So in '80 when they went, I was with my dad at the game when they beat Dallas, and then ended up going. I didn't go to the Super Bowl, but I was at the NFC Championship. So it's a big family thing for me. Huge Phillies fans. So you obviously you struck a chord.
Are you going to the Super Bowl?
I'm not unless somebody's going to sponsor me. So, and if anybody's out there and they need a scribe, let me know. I can help you guys out. Be happy to mark the down and distance or whatever. Give you some insight into the special teams.
Hey Ed, I was friends from KTV in Omaha, so you're a New Jersey native, from Cherry Hill, I think.
Yes.
Do you believe that there is a difference with North and South Jersey? Do you believe that divide?
Yeah, it's not a belief. It actually is the way that it is. But although I will say this, we lived in North Jersey. So I lived in Demorest for a little bit when I was working at Fordham and at Hofstra. So I spent some time living and working in New York City. It's totally different. But there's good and bad. Because I lived in both places, I'm not going to bash North Jersey because I lived there for a while. And, you know, my older son, my son that works here with me, is actually a Yankees fan because he lived for 8 years and when we were in Demarest, and I refused to let him go to Mets games. He was like, my friend wants me to go to the game with him. I'm like, what game? He's like, Mets. I would say, nope. I'm not going to the Mets game. So if you want to take the Yankees game, you go to the Yankees game. But we're not going. I refuse to allow you. There's no chance you're going to become a Mets fan. So he's now a Yankees fan because of that. But I did live in North Jersey and had to deal with all the area code was 609. You know, at the time, so the 201 people would say, which is North Jersey, would be like, oh, that's so 609, and I'd be like, really? Like I'm sitting right here, like you don't got to do this in front of me. But you know what's funny, because when I got, I kind of knew this, but like when I got here, you know, there's some really good, like Nebraska was huge for me when I was a kid. Like, you know, Keith Jackson and the Oklahoma Nebraska game was Nebraska was one of those teams that you could see on TV. It wasn't like it is now where like there's 14 games on the weekends. Like you had the ABC game and you had Keith Jackson, and Nebraska was on that game. Obviously the Oklahoma game every year, but there was other games that we used to see Nebraska. And then, you know, Mike Rozier was right down the street from us, and you know, I ran into Rich Glover and the Peter brothers. Like there's a bunch of dudes from Jersey that came out here, Irving Fryer, over the years that like were kind of grew up near us. So there was a real connection for me coming from New Jersey to be part of this program. You know, when Matt was talking about, you know, potential landing spots, I was like, oh, please let it be Nebraska. So I'm so happy that we're here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.